Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, gazing out into the vast sea of stars. The ship drifted quietly through the void near a world known as Kepler 442b. For 6 long months, Jake had lived among the stars. His mission was clear: find new worlds where humanity could settle. Earth was bursting with 12 billion souls, and space had become the only direction left to expand. At 42, Jake had spent 15 years as a captain. His wife, Carol, and their 2 children waited for him back home. This journey would last 2 years, and then he planned never to leave Earth again. The Liberty was humanity's first vessel capable of traveling this far. It had taken 8 months just to reach this system. At the comm station sat Lieutenant Amy Chen, the ship's communications officer. At 28, she was sharp and composed, though for the past hour there had been only silence. Space was vast and empty. Then suddenly, her console flickered to life. Strange readings appeared, massive energy signatures at the edge of the system. They weren't natural. Something was moving toward them, something enormous. Amy's eyes widened. "Captain, I'm picking up unknown ships. Big ones, at least 20. They don't match any human design. And they're fast. Too fast for us." Jake's pulse quickened. No other human vessels were anywhere near this sector. If these weren't human, then they were something else entirely. He had always wondered if humanity was alone in the universe. Now he was about to learn the truth. "Try hailing them," he ordered. "Tell them we're peaceful explorers from Earth. Maybe this is first contact. Maybe today changes history." Amy sent the transmission and waited. The ships drew closer. Colossal constructs, 10 times larger than the Liberty, their surfaces glowing with eerie blue light. They moved in flawless formation, disciplined and precise. Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez heard the alarms blaring. At 50, with a lifetime aboard starships, he'd never heard that sound before. Something was terribly wrong. Checking his console, his blood ran cold. The unknown ships were locking weapons on the Liberty. On the bridge, Jake tried to steady his voice. The alien vessels filled the main display, unlike anything humanity had built. No windows, only smooth hulls bristling with weaponry. Amy turned toward him, pale. "Captain, they're not responding, but they're charging weapons, all of them." "What are your orders?" Fear gripped every soul aboard. The Liberty was an exploration ship, not a warship. Its defenses were laughably small, nothing that could stop what was coming. There was no escape. The enemy ships were faster by far. Jake drew a breath. "Send a message to Earth now. All sensor data, images, everything. Tell them the aliens are hostile. Use the quantum communicator. It must reach Earth immediately. They have to know what's coming." Amy's hands flew over the controls, encoding every scrap of data, the energy readings, the ship images, everything they'd learned. Then she sent the message through the quantum link, ensuring that, whatever happened next, Earth would know the truth. The message from the Liberty reached Earth instantly. Quantum physics made transmission faster than light. Moments later, the alien fleet opened fire. Blinding blue beams struck the Liberty from every direction. The ship shuddered violently as explosions tore through its hull. Lights flickered and died. Alarms wailed. The bridge filled with smoke and screams as Captain Jake Morrison gripped his chair, powerless to stop his ship from being ripped apart. In engineering, Danny Rodriguez saw the end coming. He had less than half a minute before the engines blew. With grim determination, he activated a final failsafe, a beacon containing every scrap of data about the attackers. It would drift through space, endlessly transmitting the warning to Earth. Seconds later, the UES Liberty was gone, shattered into glowing fragments. All 100 crew members perished. The ship built to find new homes for humanity had become the first victim of an alien war. The alien fleet observed the wreckage without emotion. They hadn't even tried to communicate. To them, humans were insignificant insects. On Earth, the Liberty's final transmission arrived. Scientists and world leaders stared at the data in shock. Vessels far beyond human understanding, technologies centuries ahead, and proof of unprovoked destruction. The attackers called themselves the Hegemony Coalition, a galactic empire that had already exterminated countless civilizations. To them, Earth was simply another threat to be erased, Hours later, their armada appeared in orbit. The skies darkened as their ships surrounded the planet. Earth's most advanced weapons, defenses, and fleets meant nothing. The invasion began. For 18 hours, the world burned. From orbit, their energy weapons turned entire cities into molten glass. On the moon, Admiral Lisa Parker watched helplessly as New York, London, and Tokyo vanished in blinding flashes. Humanity's counterattacks failed utterly. Their strongest missiles couldn't even scratch the alien hulls. Then came the troops, 7 feet tall. Gray-skinned, four-armed soldiers in armor that deflected every bullet. Their weapons reduced humans to dust. They marched through streets with mechanical precision, claiming a world that now belonged to them. Supreme Commander Zolthak, leader of the invasion, stood amid the ruins of the United Nations building in New York. 8 feet tall and centuries old, he viewed Earth as nothing more than Planet 47, another conquest for the Coalition. Humans were rounded up and sorted. The strong were sent to mines, the intelligent to factories, the rest to farms that fed the alien army. Families were torn apart. The elderly were executed. Humanity had become livestock. In a mining camp in Colorado, Dr. Kevin Murphy, once a NASA physicist, now dug alien ore with bleeding hands. His degrees meant nothing to his captors. But even in despair, Kevin observed, studying their weapons, armor, and machines. His scientific mind cataloged every detail. Someday, this knowledge could help humanity strike back. Elsewhere, Major Nicole Turner had survived. She was on leave when the invasion began. A veteran soldier of 15 years, she escaped into the mountains before the aliens reached her town. She wasn't alone. Scattered soldiers and civilians had fled the first assault, hiding in forests, caves, and ruins. Nicole began to unite them, training, organizing, building the first spark of resistance. They had to move carefully. The aliens had sensors that could detect human gatherings. Still, the resistance began to form. Small, silent, and determined. The human resistance began small, just whispers in the shadows. They struck at alien convoys, ambushed patrols, freed prisoners from work camps, and stole whatever alien technology they could. To the invaders, these acts were nothing more than irritations. They believed humans were too weak, too primitive, too insignificant to pose any real threat. They were wrong. During one raid, Sam Williams, a former engineer, was captured. The aliens forced him to repair their machines, an error that would cost them dearly. Sam had a brilliant mind and an instinct for understanding complex systems. As he worked, he studied every piece of alien tech, its design, its structure, its secrets. He memorized blueprints and learned the language of their circuits. Using hidden communication codes buried in mining schedules, Sam began sending encrypted messages to Dr. Kevin Murphy in the Colorado camp. The two men had never met before the war, yet together they formed the first underground scientific alliance of the resistance. Their covert correspondence went unnoticed by their alien overseers. Over time, they made a critical discovery. Every alien device, weapon, and ship ran on a single kind of power source, exotic matter cores. These cores depended on precise energy frequencies to function. Disrupt those frequencies, and the alien technology would shut down. But theory wasn't enough. They needed materials. That's where Major Nicole Turner's network came in. Her fighters raided abandoned nuclear facilities and old weapons silos, sites the aliens had dismissed as primitive relics. The radiation shielding and fissile materials inside, however, could destabilize exotic matter in ways the aliens didn't understand. With stolen components and Kevin and Sam's data, the Resistance built their first prototype, a small disruption device. They tested it on a patrol squad. The result was immediate. The aliens' armor and weapons powered down completely. For the first time since the invasion, human bullets could pierce alien flesh. Hope, real, burning hope, returned. Meanwhile, General Frank Carter worked deep underground in a hidden bunker the aliens had never found. At 60, he was one of Earth's most experienced commanders. Before the war, he had overseen Project Exodus, a classified propulsion program designed to break the light-speed barrier. Unlike alien drives that warped space with exotic matter, Exodus used quantum dimensional jumps, slipping through realities instead of bending them. Alien sensors couldn't detect this kind of travel. Now, with Nicole's fighters in contact, the Resistance and Frank's hidden base began coordinating. Plans grew beyond hit-and-run raids. They envisioned something far greater, the liberation of Earth. The aliens had made fatal assumptions. They believed humans were too backward to fight, too fractured to unite, too broken to rise again. But they didn't understand what humanity became when pushed to the edge. When Supreme Commander Zolthak received reports of increased resistance activity, he barely glanced at them. Every conquered world had its defiant survivors, and everyone had eventually bowed. "Ignore them," he ordered. "They will learn futility soon enough." But he was wrong. Elena was 52 and had led advanced weapons research for 2 decades. When the aliens invaded, orders sent her underground to continue her work. Her mission was clear: find a way for humanity to fight back. She carried with her the data recovered from the UES Liberty, humanity's first deep space vessel destroyed by the invaders. Elena had analyzed every fragment of alien ship design. She excelled at understanding weapons, able to reverse engineer or dismantle any technology she encountered. But she lacked combat experience. That changed when Captain Ryan Johnson arrived at the mountain base 3 months after the invasion. He had served aboard the USS Valiant during the first alien strike on Earth. His ship was obliterated, yet Ryan survived, adrift for 2 days in an escape pod until a rescue ship found him. At 38, with 15 years in the Space Navy, he knew every nuance of space warfare: shields, propulsion, and tactical engagement. When Elena shared the alien schematics, Ryan interpreted them with a warrior's eye, revealing how the invaders fought and where their weaknesses lay. Together they began forging weapons that could truly wound the enemy. In time, they uncovered a remarkable truth. The aliens were masters of construction, but slaves to repetition. Their technology had remained unchanged for millennia, devoid of innovation. Humanity, by contrast, thrived on risk and imagination, traits the aliens couldn't anticipate. Using this insight, Elena conceived the Nova Protocol, a system capable of turning any star into a colossal weapon. By manipulating gravity waves, the device altered stellar fusion, forcing a star to emit concentrated beams of annihilating energy. Such power required near-impossible calculations, work only human quantum computers could handle. Alien machines were faster in some ways, but rigid, linear. Human systems, thinking in branching, creative patterns, could solve what theirs could not. Meanwhile, Professor Helen Davis worked deep within a secret lab in the Australian desert. At 45, she had once studied the mysteries of human intelligence. Now her research had shifted to something critical: understanding why humanity alone resisted alien mind control. The invaders subdued most species through psychic domination, implanting commands directly into their victims' thoughts. Yet human minds remained untouched. Helen discovered that evolution had granted humanity a unique neural structure, a region of the brain absent in others. It made humans imaginative, defiant, and utterly free-willed. It also rendered them completely immune to psychic invasion. To the aliens, this defiance was both baffling and infuriating. Far from Earth, Colonel Pete Harrison constructed warships within hidden asteroid shipyards. At 50, and once a senior space engineer, force. He had fled Earth as the invasion began and taken refuge in the asteroid belt. Pete found other survivors and began assembling a covert fleet from salvaged alien components and human engineering. Pete's vessels differed from anything either species had produced. They fused top alien systems with human inventiveness. The ships mounted alien weaponry, but carried human stealth suites. They used alien shields paired with human computers. Most crucially, they were invisible to alien sensors. Maria Santos engineered the stealth systems for Pete's fleet. Maria had been an engineer at SpaceX before the war. She was 32 and extremely skilled at solving difficult problems. Maria discovered how to bend light around hulls using adapted alien gravity generators. This rendered the ships unseen by both visible detection and radar. The clandestine human navy expanded each month. Pete's crews freed people from alien prison barges. They scavenged tech from wrecked enemy vessels. They fabricated new weapons in secret workshops. The aliens remained unaware that a human space navy was forming right beneath their observation. Elena's group achieved another leap. They unlocked instantaneous communication across any distance via quantum entanglement. This method outperformed anything the invaders possessed. Human vessels could synchronize strikes across several star systems in real time. The invaders relied on conventional radio that required years to cross interstellar distances. Dr. Rodriguez also examined the alien regime. She discovered the coalition governed 12 sectors of the galaxy. They had subjugated hundreds of species, yet their dominion was overextended. Their supply chains ran across thousands of light years. They relied heavily on automated networks to maintain control. The aliens had built their empire believing no primitive race could jeopardize their logistics. They never imagined that slaves might master advanced systems and turn them against their masters. They never expected a freshly conquered people could strike distant targets. That error proved fatal. Ryan and Elena began planning Operation Shockwave. This would mark humanity's first large-scale counteroffensive. Rather than isolated raiding, it would be coordinated assaults on alien installations across multiple star systems. The strikes would be simultaneous, linked by quantum communication. The human resistance had trained and prepared for 3 years. They had reverse-engineered alien tech. They had assembled hidden fleets. They had produced novel weapons. They had liberated thousands of humans from bondage. Above all, they'd learned to cooperate across the galaxy. Supreme Commander Zethak still dismissed humanity as inconsequential. His lieutenants flagged anomalous activity on Earth and in nearby systems. But Zethak remained occupied with annexing new worlds. He ignored reports of resistance movements. That complacency served human plans perfectly. The occupation taught humans many harsh lessons about survival. It taught them hatred. It taught them the inner workings of alien systems. It taught them that surrender was not acceptable. Now humans were poised to return the lesson. They were prepared to demonstrate to the invaders the cost of attacking humanity. Admiral Tony Mitchell stood aboard the bridge of the UES Retribution, mankind's first stealth destroyer. Tony was 48 and had spent 3 years battling the aliens. The Retribution remained undetectable to alien sensors and carried weapons that married human design with captured alien technology. Today was the day humanity would strike back. Operation Shockwave was set to commence. 17 human strike ships were deployed in concealed orbits and remote staging points. Crews braced for losses, and every pilot and engineer knew the stakes. Victory meant freedom for billions. Failure would condemn humanity to perpetual slavery under a merciless empire, and hope burned like iron. Teams were stationed near alien supply hubs across 4 distant star systems. Each had vessels like the Retribution, armed with weapons capable of annihilating entire facilities. Most crucially, every team carried quantum communicators, allowing them to strike in perfect unison. Tony surveyed his crew. Every face reflected loss, family taken, homes burned, lives shattered by the invaders. Some had endured alien labor camps. Others had fought in the resistance. All shared a single purpose: vengeance for Earth. Tony felt their fury because it burned in him too. The countdown began. In 30 seconds, humanity would unleash a synchronized assault spanning hundreds of light years. No civilization had ever coordinated such a feat. The aliens believed it impossible. They were about to discover how wrong they were. 10 seconds. 5. Tony gave the order. Across the galaxy, human ships erupted from the void, striking alien supply depots with devastating precision. The aliens were caught utterly off guard. Their sensors had detected nothing. In seconds, humanity's weapons obliterated vital infrastructure. Supply lines that had endured for centuries collapsed in minutes. The UES Retribution destroyed 3 cargo ships and a massive fuel depot. Other teams targeted weapons foundries, communications relays, and troop transports. Within an hour, 17 major alien facilities were gone. The invaders lost more assets in that single hour than they had in the past 100 years. Supreme Commander Zethak received the reports in disbelief and fury. Primitive humans had somehow executed simultaneous strikes across multiple sectors. Such coordination should have been impossible. Zethak, conqueror of 46 worlds, had never seen defiance on this scale. Enraged, he ordered an immediate counterattack, deploying his largest fleets toward Earth and the systems where the assaults had occurred. Battleships, dreadnoughts, and elite commanders led the charge. He intended to erase humanity before rebellion could infect other enslaved races, but the humans were prepared. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had waited 3 long years for this moment for the aliens to send their full strength toward Earth. As their armadas entered the solar system, she activated the Nova Protocol. The sun itself became a weapon. Its surface brightened, boiling with unnatural fury. Solar flares erupted, not randomly, but in precise, calculated bursts. Human quantum computers directed each flare into concentrated beams of stellar energy aimed directly at the invading fleets. The alien admirals were paralyzed with shock. Stars weren't supposed to be weapons. They were supposed to sustain life, not end it. But humanity had rewritten the rules. The solar lances struck without mercy. Ships that could endure nuclear fire were vaporized. Shields that could withstand planetary bombardment crumbled in seconds. Within minutes, 3 entire alien armadas ceased to exist. Thousands of warships and millions of soldiers gone in a storm of stellar wrath. Meanwhile, Captain Betty Wright commanded the stealth cruiser UES Phantom. At 35, once a pilot before the war, she now led deep penetration raids into the alien empire's core, missions not of destruction, but of liberation. Betty and her crew struck at the heart of the enemy, freeing enslaved worlds one by one. Forces had learned to teach others how to fight. The UES Phantom arrived at Keltor Prime, a world where the aliens imprisoned millions of slaves from 12 different species. Using their resistance to psychic domination, Betty's team slipped into the camps undetected. There, they trained the captives in human resistance tactics, methods born from Earth's own brutal occupation. The freed aliens were stunned. Most believed humanity had been annihilated long ago, their homeworld reduced to ash. The Coalition's propaganda claimed Earth was nothing but a dead world. Yet here stood living proof, human soldiers offering not only hope, but the means to fight back. Humanity had not perished. Humanity was prevailing. Commander Alex Thompson led parallel strikes against alien manufacturing planets. At 42, once an engineer turned warrior, his specialty was capturing enemy production centers and converting them into human weapons factories. Alex excelled at adapting alien machinery to serve human needs. The invaders, long reliant on their technological superiority and mental dominance, had never faced an adversary capable of turning their own inventions against them, or one completely immune to their psychic control. The Coalition's entire military doctrine collapsed when faced with an enemy like humanity. General Kate Anderson oversaw the growing alliance of freed worlds. At 50, and a master strategist before the war, she worked tirelessly to unite newly liberated species into coordinated military forces. Under her command, human officers trained alien rebels, shared technology, and organized combined fleets. What had begun as a desperate human uprising was rapidly becoming something greater, a galactic revolution. Human. Tactical brilliance combined with alien, technical expertise forged battle forces mightier than either could have achieved alone. The alien empire began to unravel. Civilizations enslaved for ages rose in revolt, armed now with human-designed weapons and unshakable hope. Worlds that had pledged allegiance to the Coalition for centuries declared independence. Supply chains that had endured for millennia collapsed under relentless, synchronized strikes. Thack finally understood what humanity had done, something no other species had ever accomplished. They had united the galaxy's enslaved worlds against their masters. The Coalition was no longer fighting a single species. It faced a rebellion that stretched across 12 sectors and involved hundreds of liberated civilizations. Humanity had learned painful lessons under occupation. They knew the weight of chains, the hunger for freedom, and the strength found in unity. The Coalition's weapons were superior, but the rebellion possessed something far greater: hope. Admiral Steve Rogers commanded the largest fleet in human history as it advanced toward Veltar Prime, capital of the Hegemony Coalition. At 55, he was a veteran of 4 years of unbroken warfare. His armada was a testament to the alliance humanity had built. Human warships, liberated alien vessels, and even repurposed Coalition craft, all under a single unified command. The Liberation Fleet drew strength from 23 species. Humans supplied strategy and leadership. The Colurans contributed advanced shielding. The Zephyrans lent their lightning-fast strike ships. And the Mani brought devastating heavy weaponry. Together, they were an unstoppable force. Veltar Prime was the most fortified world in existence. Its orbital platforms could annihilate fleets, its surface cannons reached into orbit, and its planetary shields could withstand any known weapon. The Coalition had spent thousands of years perfecting its defenses, but humans had learned to turn those same technologies against them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had developed her most dangerous creation. Yet, the Cascade Protocol. This weapon could destabilize exotic matter cores across an entire star system, disabling every piece of Coalition technology simultaneously. It was a gamble. Half the time, it would work flawlessly. The other half, it would obliterate everything, including the human fleet. Only humanity would dare such a risk because risk was their nature. From his command citadel on Veltar Prime, Supreme Commander Sak watched the human armada approach. In 4 years of war, he had lost half his empire, dozens of worlds, and the faith of his subordinates. His supply lines were shattered, his fleet scattered. At last he understood the truth. Humanity was not a primitive anomaly. They were something new, a species that transformed every weakness into a weapon and refused to yield no matter the odds. The final battle began as Admiral Rogers gave the order to attack. Coalition warships surged upward from Veltar Prime, and space erupted with fire and fury. Energy beams, missiles, and explosions filled the void. Ships on both sides were torn apart within minutes. Yet the humans had already set their true plan in motion. While the battle raged above, human infiltration teams, immune to psychic detection, moved unseen through Veltar Prime's cities. They planted Cascade devices at key energy hubs and power cores. When activated, every Coalition system failed at once. Planetary shields collapsed. Defense platforms went dark. Weapons fell silent. Communication grids disintegrated. In seconds, the most secure world in the galaxy was defenseless. The Cascade spread through hyperspace channels, leaping from system to system. Within hours, the Coalition's own network carried its undoing across 12 sectors. The Empire's technology, once its greatest strength, was now its doom. As Zak's empire crumbled, he sent one final transmission to his surviving commanders. His voice was filled with bitter acceptance. "Avoid the humans," he warned. "Never underestimate a species that turns desperation into a weapon." That was humanity's legacy to the stars. They had taken the instruments of their oppression and reshaped them into tools of liberation. They had improved alien technologies, refined their strategies, and transformed defeat into triumph. Commander Lucy Morrison stood aboard the UES Liberation as Coalition forces surrendered across the galaxy. At 30, the daughter of Captain Jake Morrison, lost aboard the UES Liberty, she had fought to avenge her father and free countless worlds. Now, as transmissions of surrender echoed from system to system, the Empire was gone. Every day, new worlds declared independence. Freed species began to govern themselves, guided by human advisors who helped them build democratic societies and defend their newfound liberty. The galaxy was transforming into